Welcome to SLSO and Notebook. They really do go together like peanut butter and jelly. In this session, I've asked you to log into my Smart Learning Suite. So you're looking at the student view right now once you've logged in. So you went to hellosmart.com, you have entered my ID, and now you're in. I'm going to ask you in the chat to introduce yourself. Tell me what school or what grade level and content area you teach so that we can see who's here. Great. I see we have a wide variety, some at the elementary school, some at the secondary level. See, we have all different content areas. That's great. All right, let's continue on and see what else we find out that is here. Remember, we have our norms for TUT. The most important part is to make sure you have your first and last name correctly in Zoom so that it appears correctly on and it matches what's in your paycheck so that we know we can get you all paid. You will still need to make sure you do the attendance at the end. All right, let's begin. Our normal Zoom tips, but I think most of you now have got it. If we ask you to share your screen, you find the big green button at the bottom. You know how to mute yourself, and make sure you leave your video on so we'll be able to see thumbs up if you have stuff correctly. All right, my name is Terry Politi. This is my 33rd year in education. I have done a wide variety of things, but currently I am a training specialist for SMART, but I'm embedded with Philadelphia Public Schools. So I actually am an ed tech coach for 8 of the schools inside of Philadelphia. But if you need me, there's my email address, terrypoliti@smarttech.com. I'd be glad to answer your questions after we're done this session. All right, our purpose today is really to look at Smart Notebook and SLSO. We're going to start in SLSO as a student, and we're going to go backwards, and I'm going to show you how I created it in Smart Notebook and talk about some of the reasons why I might create it in Notebook instead of in SLSO. But I can use it in SLSO. You will definitely get some hands-on time to actually make sure that you have A, seen it as a student, hands-on, and then B, from the teacher perspective. A deeper understanding will make sure that you understand when we leave here, that you understand how this all kind of goes together. All right, well, let's begin. We did drop the agenda inside of the chat. Inside that agenda, it'll force you to make a copy, and it will also give you all of the links at the very bottom in the resources that I talk about tonight. So just be aware that they're there. All right, so Smart Learning Suite Online, and you'll sometimes hear me call it SLSO. That's the online version. You can store everything in your Meet. You can push it to the online version and any device you can use it in. Chromebooks, tablets, whatever they need. Smart Notebook is the actual application that's installed on your computer, on your Mac or your Dell. It has a very large library of things it can do, but everything that we're going to show you today that I make in Notebook can also be pushed into Smart Learning Suite Online to kind of give you an idea of what we're learning. Now, just so that you understand about Smart Learning Suite Online, you will see right now that I am actually writing on your document. So whatever I do on my screen, you will see on your screen. So a lot of times when I'm working in SLSO, I'm not sharing my screen, like I don't go to present now or share, because once you've logged in, you actually have access to the screen I'm seeing. So a lot of times I do not share my screen, I just have them log in. How do you log in? For you, you could have logged in an incognito window, okay? However, if you didn't, that's okay, but I need you to go to hellosmart.com. I need you to join as a guest. I do not need you to sign in. The sign in part is really for the kids. They have to sign in, but you as a guest do not need to sign in, just so you know. And then you're going to enter the code that I gave you, which is 128466. 128466. Again, you'll find that in the chat if you need it, just to give you an idea of what's there. So now you're all logged in. You're all seeing to my screen, but on your end to SLSO because I've not shared my screen. I am going to tell you I'm going to leave these in here so that when you get the copy of this, you'll also see how the students need to join. Okay, it kind of gives you an idea and gives you step-by-step things of how the teachers or the kids will join. All right, the first thing we're going to do is start with a Venn diagram. And what I'd like you to do is to give me ideas of how you could use a Venn diagram in your class. All right, so I'm going to hit start, and you will notice you will get a gray box, and you'll have 3 chances to put a response in and send it. So the very first thing is, how can I use a Venn diagram? Rational and irrational numbers. Send response. I have 2 more choices left. You'll see here there's 2. So let me do pros and cons. Send response. And then can't think of another one. All right, you don't have to send them all. Excuse me. All right, so on the teacher side, I see everything. So it kind of gives me an idea of what we're going to use today. And I could go through the ideas with the whole class. I am just going to, for time's sake, show you what I see on my side. So here's what I see on my side, and if more people responded, you'd see them all. I can also click on here and run through the different responses. But we're going to do a Venn diagram today. I'm going to do a very simple one, verbs and nouns. But then I'm going to, when we make our own, I'm going to have you make one that fits content that you can use. Okay, so that's why I wanted you to think about how you could use a Venn diagram. All right, so what you see on your screen right now is the Venn diagram that I'm going to have you do. I'm going to break you into small work groups, and you are going to move the words. So let's say I say run. Is it a verb or a noun? I think it's only a verb. You're going to start moving items as a group to where you go. Okay, so I'm going to make this a small group collaboration space. Okay, so let me do that on the fly right now. Make it a collaboration space. Right now, I am going to put everybody on one team because we don't have that many people logged in. But you'll see what this is then, is that everybody then will be able to work in the same space as we go. Okay, so I've made it a whole group collaboration space. We're waiting for the teacher to assign teams. Here we go, the teams have been assigned. So now you can move these around. So let me just move them. And whoever else is on your team is also moving them. So if you agree or disagree with them, you could also move whatever they put in. Okay, so you have options here. But I'm going to ask them all to put them in. Okay, and then you'd have a small group discussion about the same thing. Now I'm going to ask you to add words, one in the verb, one in the both, and one in the noun category. To add a word, you're going to click on the A, click somewhere in the workspace, and then type in your word. Once you unclick, you'll notice it automatically goes back to the finger, and I can move it wherever I want to. If I drag the box in the bottom right corner, I can make it a little larger if I need to. So you can add different pieces as you need to. Now that's a small group workspace. So let me hit another one. Let's go to the next page. Simply grading rubric as we go along. This might be how I would grade it. We're going to do another shout it out. And we're going to start this for the class. You'll notice this one has a drop-down menu where I could put in a word, a verb, noun, or both. So let's see if I got this. So this is me testing the kids to see if they truly got what they were supposed to get out of the small group workspace. So they're going to put in a jump, and they have to add the category. Goes to verb, only if it's P. There we go, send response. They need to time, run, Actually, I need like door. Noun. And need to think of one that's both. I'm going to use time because I can't think of anything else. And you may say I'm wrong, but remember, I'm a math teacher at heart. So what I see on my side then, let me show you what I see on my side, is that we have the door, the time, and the jump. And I can see who sent it because I let it be allowed. So I don't share this with kids, but it gives me a good indication whether they know what they know. Oh, Seesaw might need a little work on what words can be both because she was a little unsure there. Kind of gives you an idea. But that's another way of how to use a shout it out. But it's for me, it's a check for understanding for the students just to see if they know where they are. Now, right now you can do nothing on this page. It is just a blank page for you. However, what I'm going to do is I am going to show you that you can pull down the arrows. They're infinitely cloned. Is attack, after my asthma attack, a noun or a verb? I think it's a noun. The doctor decided to attack. That is more of a verb. Okay? And now let's read the next one. At the end of the block, there is a fence to block cars. So that's another sentence where you'd have to pull more of these down and see if you know if they're right. All right, I'm going to change this into a handout right now on the fly. So in a second, you will get an individual handout. You click Start, and you are going to pull down whether it is a noun or verb. So you have that same option now. Noun, verb, at the end of the block, noun, verb. So then on my side, I will be able to see Seesaw's paper, and I can see exactly what they did. And I can put words, or I can just do check marks for the correct ones. If they're all correct, I'm good to go. And then on the student side, you see they automatically see the check marks. So this is more of an individual check for understanding now because I was ready to go on to that next step. All right, on the next piece of this, I could keep giving them more of these types of handouts where they had to create their own sentence, find a word that they could use in a sentence that could be a noun or a verb, and create a sentence for that. So it kind of gives you those other ones. And then on this one, the challenge was, okay, how did I use the word challenge? And then continue it on and use it in the other sense of the word. So you can definitely level up how you ask the questions inside of here. This is the ability to put videos inside of here. So if they're unsure about nouns or verbs, they could play the individual videos and actually listen to them. You get the idea. So you can also put in some helper pages as they go along. That can give you some other ideas as to what you're doing. All right. Now, what we really want to do as we stroll through this is we want to definitely take, how did we build it? How are we going to build these slides? Well, we're going to build them inside of Notebook to give you an idea of how that works. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I am going to bring up a notebook file, which if you don't have it, that's one of the resources on that page. You can make sure you install the correct version for your machine. And we're going to build some of these files just to give you an idea of how to build them. So the very first one I did was a shout it out, just to ask you how you'd use a Venn diagram. So to build the shout it out, I am going to go up to the monster, click on the monster. I am going to find shout it out, click on shout it out. That was a randomized one. I just wanted to see how you would use shout it out. And I click finish. So this is what creates on my side that shout it out that I asked for how to use a Venn diagram. All right, to add a page, I'm going to click either here, the little page icon with the plus sign, or down here in the bottom left. Doesn't matter. Each one will add a page as you see as we go along. The next one we want to do is a Venn diagram. So I'm going to come in here. I am going to search in my gallery for a Venn diagram. Okay, you're going to find a Venn diagram that you like. I am going to use this one right here. Okay, and so now I have my Venn diagram. All right, now you'll notice those are locked. No matter what I do, nothing can happen. So I need to write the word noun, move it to where I want it. Make sure you're on your selector tool when you do that. I'm going to duplicate it. You can pull the drop-down menu if you want and clone it. I just happened to hit Command D. Now I'm going to make this verb. And now it's set to go. Now, the only other thing you might want to do is make sure they're locked because I don't want the students moving those. So I'm going to select them both. How I did that is I made sure I had the selector tool. Okay, highlight them both. Any one of the drop-down menus, go to lock, lock in place. Once I've locked it in place, I should be good for those parts. Okay, pause the video now, please. Make sure you go to the gallery, find your Venn diagram, add your text, and lock it. Please pause the video now. Great. The next thing we need to do is add words and or pictures. If you're a primary, you might want to add pictures. So we're going to click on the letters first, and let's add time. And I'm going to say I want it a little bit smaller than I made the other words. I could also change the color if I wanted to. Maybe I make them all a bright red or blue. Make sure that the color works on all of these. Yep. Okay, once I have the size and the shape, or the size and the color I want, I'm just going to keep duplicating it a whole bunch of times. It's kind of me cheating. And now I'm going to change these to hop, whatever word I want them to be. I'm going to change this to look. Change this one to bench. You get the idea. Change this to door. Change this to knock. Okay. Once I have all those, and I could also add pictures. I did tell you that. If you're primary and are looking for something very picture oriented, again, in the gallery, you can search for, I'm going to search for jump. And I can find pictures in here of people jumping. Or there's a hop. So you can also use pictures inside of here if you don't want to use words. Once you're done, select all of those new items that you just added. Select all of them. From the drop-down menu of any one, you want to go to the lock. This time I don't want to lock in place. This one I want to lock and allow to move. Because what will happen on the kids' end once we add it to SLSO, they can move these around, but they can't resize them. So therefore everything will fit much better. Okay, so you want to lock and allow to move. So notice it does have the lock symbol just like this one did, but this one was just a plain lock. This one is a lock and allow to move. So please pause the video while you create that activity. Great. The next activity that I added was another shout it out so that I could see if they understood nouns and verbs. So I am going to hit the plus sign, make a new page, add the monster symbol up here, which is the activities. Scroll down to shout it out. Inside of shout it out, this one was a category. I made one a noun, I made one both, and I made one verb. So this is how you make those drop downs that they get to choose which one it is. I usually, if I'm asking them for 3 things, give them the option to 4. So that way if they mess up on one, they have another shot to get it right. Hit finish, and now that is created. So please pause that video now and create the shout it out. Great. All right, the next thing we want to do is create those handouts. So I'm going to add another page. The handouts were literally just the directions up here. So all I did was click on my text tool, get directions. Okay, now I'm going to make a sentence. And my sentence was like something about the asthma attack. The doctor decided to ATTACK with new medication. Only helps if I do some good spelling in here. All right. Now I'm going to bold these words and underline so that the participants can find them. bold, underline. Okay, that might be a little too big, so I'm going to make it a tad bit smaller. So I can do the drop down here. 24 is a perfect size. Okay, now I need to make, usually after I make one sentence, I will duplicate it and then change it from there so that I know everything matches. Now I needed to make the arrow. So to make the arrow, you're simply going to grab your shape tool, circle and a square. There's a drop down menu in there. One of them is an arrow tool. So I'm just going to grab my arrow, drag it. That's about what I want. All right, I am going to click once on it and I get my properties to come up. And I'm going to make this one red. Okay, and then I'm going to duplicate that because this one I want to be green. All right, now I need to put noun and verb in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is rotate it because I want it to point to what it's supposed to be. Let's put this up a little bit. Rotate this one. And mine had words in it. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to put the text right on top of it. So I'm going to type in noun, highlight the whole thing, make it much smaller. That probably will fit. Let me see. Yep. I'm going to duplicate. Actually, I'm going to click once. And I'm going to duplicate that. Bring it over here. This one is verb. If I want to move it over, I'm using the arrow keys right now. You can move it over a little or a lot. You have your option. Now I need to group those so that they move together. So I highlight these, drop down menu, either one, go to grouping and group the items together. Do the same thing here, select both, drop down menu, group together. Now I want to make each one of these an infinite cloner. So there's an infinite number of those to pull down into here. So I click once, drop down menu, infinite cloner. Now there's an infinite number of those there that I can pull as many as I want to. Same thing here with verb, infinite cloner. And now I'm good to go. All right. Now, once I'm done here, here's a big plus for the notebook side right now, is I can come over here to pages. I see that I've already created that. I can, from that drop down menu, clone that page so I can make multiple pages of the same thing and then just come in here and change my sentence. And all of these are still set up to go. Okay, so I still had it on both pages. So you can clone these as many times as you want it, and then you'll be good to go. All right, that's how I created it. From there, now I'm going to upload it into Smart Learning Suite Online. So I need to save it as something. File, save as. I'm going to save this one as practice. And I don't think I told you to pause, but make sure you pause and create that video on your own. Sorry, should be calling this practice 1. Hit save. All right, I've made it a notebook. I've saved it to where I can find it. Now I'm going to go over to my Google Drive. Let me bring this over to you so you can see it. So you go to the folder you want. I'm going to go to my Fridays folder. This is where I want to put it. I go to New, More, Smart Learning Suite, Create and Share, and it's going to take me to the SLSO dashboard where I'll be able to see other activities, but also upload this one in that I want to be able to use. All right, so as it comes to the SLSO dashboard, I'm going to add my activity. I am going to import a resource. Notice you can import notebooks, PowerPoints, PDFs, all different Google files. Click on it. It's on my device, practice 1, and it's going to upload every single one of those pages into an SLSO file. So it's converting. My notebook file is still there. It's not doing that. It just copies everything from notebook into here. So there is my shout it out. So if I take a look at edit, let's see, this one was the how to use a Venn diagram. All right, it's good to go. I'm going to leave it as is. Here is my graphic organizer Venn diagram. You can convert on the fly, or I convert it now. So you can change things as you want. I'm going to leave it to convert it as we go. I'm going to take one more look at the last one down here. I'm going to convert this to a handout now so that you get the idea of what it looks like. All right, I'm going to hit finish editing. And now there's my lesson in my dashboard, or it's also in my Fridays folder now. It's also here as a SLSO document. So I could double click here, open with SLSO, or now that it's here, I could also hit start here. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Shout it out for my class. How do you use a Venn diagram? Oh, remember I need the kids live. Here is my live number right here. They'd all go here, log in, they're good to go. And then as the kids answered, the responses would be here. The next one we did was the Venn diagram. Remember, I can move these around and they kind of get the idea before I turn it into anything. I'm going to clear it then using this reset here. And now I'm going to make it into a collaborative workspace on the fly. So I hit the heads, hit collaborative workspace. It's going to ask me, do I want everybody on one team? If I have a lot of people logged in, it'll give me up to 9 teams. I have no one logged in, which is why it says put everybody on one team. So now that's a collaborative workspace that everybody can work in. Okay? And that's how you are going to use Notebook with SLSO.